Yeah, it is that time, isn't it? Call the meeting, the special commissioner board meeting together, order together. To order, can we get a quick roll call, please?
Sure thing. Commissioner Bingle,
Here.
Commissioner Blackman, Commissioner Huff,
Here.
Outlaw,
Here.
Commissioner Powell, Commissioner Reddick,
Here.
Commissioner Scott.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay. It's good. Thank everybody for joining, knowing this is a special meeting. Won't take a whole lot of your time, but we do need to address the MOU with Laurel Street. We received a copy at the last board meeting and with comments from Jamie on it, and we were all supposed to, Commissioner Huff just joined us, make comments if we had any. And so we need to not just keep inchworming down the road with this. We need to go ahead on and address the concerns that we have with this memorandum and just make some decisions on it. There were some comments. Any comments from the board members at this point in time?
Commissioner
Do we need to make a motion to go into closed session so that this is?
Does this have to be enclosed?
I think
No,
due to.
I don't think so. Say again?
You don't need to go into closed session at this point, no. And you may not, there may not be any value in going into closed session at all,
Right.
since no one else is on the call. The whole reason for going into closed session is to preserve the attorney-client privilege. And if no one else is here, then the privilege will still be available to us. And I don't know what we're going to be talking about necessarily that's going to be all that legal. I think what we need is an update on where we are with Laurel Street and what the board wants us to do. And then if you have questions about the master development agreement process and all that, we can talk about that. We can do that in closed session if you want, but there's no, at least at this point, I don't see a requirement to go into closed session.
Okay. No,
Well, Jamie, can you give us the update on Laurel Street? Just, I believe it was Zeb and myself were on a phone call with Jamie last week. I did have questions and I posed those to Jamie. And a lot of the issue was that we weren't getting any feedback from Laurel Street. Is that correct, Jamie?
Yes, I think so. I mean, and as far as feedback on the actual language, but I think Ms. Askew can give us an update on where we are with Laurel Street, and then we can talk about the agreements if you want to.
Okay, so we haven't provided Laurel Street with anything outside of just communication. I was under the understanding that you all would review it and provide me with any comments that you wanted to add to it, with the additions of the comments that Mr. Norman had already made. And I didn't get any comments from you all to provide to them, so I haven't given them anything.
Question, did they get a copy of what he originally, so they haven't seen anything?
No, because I mean, our last conversation was that you all would review it and get it back to me in 2 weeks with your comments and to be added to that, and then I would present it to Laurel Street. Like, I haven't given them anything because I haven't gotten anything from the board to provide to them.
But Laurel Street wanted us to basically stick with what they had basically written, though. They want us to stay with the memorandum they sent us.
Right, they were looking for us to review it and provide comments on that document and any additional changes that we wanted to make, provide that to them. So we could, at that point, discuss them and, negotiate whatever we need to with them. But I didn't get any feedback from the board as to the comments that you all had to include with that so that I could give it to them. So they don't have anything to discuss with us at this point.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, this is Jamie. Yeah, that may have been
I'm
my fault.
confused.
because we did get comments from
Right.
Commissioner Bingle and Commissioner Howe. But all of their comments were consistent with mine. I thought that Laurel Street had already gotten the agreement, and that's why I was waiting on them to respond to us. But if not, then that's fine. I can get it to you.
Did you just say you got comments from Laurel Street already?
No, I got comments from Commissioner Bingle.
Bingo.
Okay, yeah, see, I
Yeah.
never got that. Like, I was waiting on you all to provide me with documentation because the last email that I received from you, in that email, Jamie, you stated that this is not to be provided to Laurel Street until I had all of the comments. So I never got anything to give to them.
Okay. And I did, so the comments I got from Commissioner Bingle and were consistent with mine. So I'll get those to you.
Yeah, so I need the
And then we can
comments
get-
from Commissioner Bingle and from any other commissioners, if you all have anything, so that I can give that to Laurel Street. And once they receive it, then you and I, Mr. Norman, can meet with them to discuss it.
Okay.
Ms. Askey, though, and Jamie, I'm confused about that. This, you know, sending comments to you to send to Laurel Street. This is basically a legal document that Jamie should be drafting. And based on our comments to him, if he thinks it's consistent with the law and with a contract, then that contract would, you know, this should really come from Jamie. I'm not qualified to say what is legally correct or incorrect, but it's my comments, my concerns, and a lot of them were based on the fact that I don't want the housing authority to get the short end of the stick. The way it's written right now,
Yeah.
Laurel Street benefits many times over from this and could possibly leave us in not a good position if something happens. So again, this is a legal matter that has to be drafted by Jamie and presented to Laurel Street. It's not just our comments. It should be a
Okay.
document that has been revised based on the discussion we have with each other here, revised by the attorney, and then negotiated between the two attorneys.
I mean, I totally agree with you because, you know, in my experience coming into this agency, the housing authority has had some very bad deals prior to.
Yes.
So I totally agree with you on that issue. And, you know, with that being said, the document that we have, we would, you know, make any adjustments or anything that we need to that document. And so at this point where we are, we've been going through this for many months now. And so we can either move forward with this document and discuss it with Laurel Street, or we can just disregard the total thing and start all over. Because the next two people that scored in the RFQ that we did, it's a tie. So we can't go to the next person. So Laurel Street was our top. The next two tied. So we'll need to do another RFQ and put it out there for others to bid on again and go through that process, which is probably going to take us another 6 months to get to the point where we are now, because we'll need to put it out for at least 90 days and then allow them to send in proposals. We'll review those proposals, and then we'll have to meet with the top 3 that are selected from that point. And so that can take us some time now. If we can't move forward with what we have now, I think it would be best if we just start all over. And with that being said, when we do the RFQ, we need to provide a legal document drafted by our attorney to them to review and not ask them for a document to negotiate with.
Yeah, I agree, Tiffany. That's right. I guess, do you know if Laurel Street is even interested in the memorandum of understanding approach at this point, or do they really want to have final terms and conditions?
They are interested in us reviewing the document that was provided, which we asked for. Like, we initially asked them to provide that to us, which was part of the original RFQ that we did. So we asked them to provide it, and they did, for us to review it and negotiate. Commissioner Bingo asked for our terms so that we don't get the short end of the stick. And then once we do that, then we'll move forward with a master development agreement, because this initial document is not that. So that's where we were in the process, but if it's not comfortable for you all, then we can do it a different way and start
But
the
it's my
process all
understanding,
over
Ms.
again.
Askew, it's my understanding, and Mr. Norman, please correct me if I'm wrong, that you're not getting any reply from the attorneys at Laurel Street to say, wait a minute, this document, you know, we having some issues so that we could get it right and send it, you know, in negotiations I've had with MOUs in the past, it was the you know, the board advising the attorney what they felt, then the attorneys kind of going back and forth. Is this not the case? Can you not get a
So we
response
never
from them?
got to that point. We've never gotten to that point. Like, we're asking now just for you all to give me some feedback so that I can share it with them to negotiate with our attorney and their
But
attorney.
you
We
shouldn't be
haven't got to that point
negotiating,
yet.
Ms. Askew, the
I mean, I
attorney should
want to
be
listen
negotiating.
now. The attorneys will speak on the behalf, but I mean, I need to be there and be a part of the conversation.
Absolutely.
Like, I mean,
I
need to be
totally
there.
agree. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that it's a legal matter. And Jamie, I thought
I
when we
totally
talked last
agree.
week-
And Mr. Norman has been a part of this process in the beginning. Like, he looked at the agreement and made the comments. It's not that I'm doing this without him. He has been a part of that. He was a part of the conversations with Laurel Street. So like, he has been there. So this is something we are doing with legal counsel.
Okay,
And-
may I speak?
Sure.
May I speak?
Yes, go ahead.
So here is my thought. I really do not want to go back to, you know, having interviewing firms again and going through the RFQ. I don't want to do that. I don't feel like, I hope we don't have to do that. I agree with what Commissioner Bingle is saying. We, at least she and I, are not qualified to look at these documents. I know that I'm not, and she's already stated that, and I agree with her. So what I would like, or what I would suggest is, Jamie, can you go? I understand there are some real concerns. I understand that in the past, you know, the housing authority has gotten the short end of the stick. It will not be that way this time. And I'm expecting, Jamie, this is the expectation, is that you help us a little bit more in this process, go through this memorandum of understanding or agreement, whichever one it is, go through it and show us your concerns so that we can make educated statements as to whether we want to move forward or not. That is what I am suggesting that we do. Right now, I don't feel like that is being done. So my question is, can Jamie do that? Will Jamie do that? Like, help us make the right decision, because I don't feel like I am qualified by reading through this. I believe Commissioner Bingle has said that early on in the conversation, but I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I don't want to do that. We have come too far. And I think we need to try to stick with what we have. But hear me clearly. I am depending upon Jamie to help us understand what is not right and what is in our best interest. Can we do that?
Mr. Chair, I'll be happy to respond. Is that
Yes, go
okay?
ahead.
So, Commissioner Reddick, yes, we can absolutely do that. My goal is to make this work for Laurel Street. That's who the board selected. That's my mandate, is to make it work. We have not reached an impasse with Laurel Street, as far as I know, and I think that it's certainly very doable. Let me ask you this, Commissioner Reddick, and the other commissioners. Have you seen my write-up about the Laurel Street MOA and with all my comments on it?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Well, I mean, that lays it out. That lays out all the issues.
Right.
But I can put that in a form that Tiffany and I can send to Laurel Street,
Okay.
and then we'll get with Laurel Street. We'll talk to them at a staff and attorney level, and get this thing hammered out. That's my understanding as to what my direction is. If that's not what the board wants, we can you can talk about that now and tell us what you want to do. But as far as protecting you all, I can certainly protect you on the legal side. I have worked on these master development agreements and with other housing authorities and with the neighboring housing authority. I've seen what works and what doesn't work. What I cannot do though, and this is where you really need to rely on your executive director and your outside consultant, Reggie Barner, who I have a lot of confidence in. They can help you decide some of the policy decisions that need to be made in the agreement, like the splits on fees, the percentage fees, that kind of thing. Your lawyer really can't tell you what's the right answer. I think that really needs to come from the people that are on the operational side. So it really is going to be a team effort. And I'm happy to do that. I just want to remind everybody, though, the last time the board and I met on this issue, the board, directed me to prepare a memorandum of understanding that Laurel Street said in the meeting they would be willing to do. And that's what I did. And apparently Laurel Street didn't want to do that. They wanted something more definitive, like this memorandum of agreement that they originally provided with. And I can certainly work with the memorandum of agreement. I think, though, what we're going to see is that Laurel Street wants something more than just an MOU. So I want to be clear with the board that we're going to wind up with something very close to a final master development agreement rather than an MOU that's not really binding on anybody. I think where we're headed with Laurel Street, and also I mentioned this earlier, just based on the timing here and the need to move as quickly as we can, the time for MOU may have already passed. And what we're going to need to do is have a master development agreement or something very close to it that really is going to be the final terms. And that's where it's going to be important for the board's professional staff and your outside consultants to do the heavy lifting and the negotiations that you need in order to make a decision on whether or not to approve it. Our goal and our expectation is that the board will approve the master development agreement at the end of the day, and that we can proceed with the project. That's sort of where I see it right now, Mr. Chair. I'll turn it back over.
Any more comments? You saying the master development, so is that something that you create, or how does that come about?
You know, I think what Laurel Street originally gave us was they called it a memorandum of agreement. In our meeting with them, they thought memorandum of understanding was workable. I think what they gave us at the beginning really is very close to a master development agreement. It has lots of final terms and conditions in it. So we can work with their version, and we can change it, edit it, send it back to them. It really doesn't matter whether it's called a master development agreement or an MOU or an MOA. What matters is what's in it.
I think, I mean, I did read over this, and some of the others they did as well, but your comments, push back with those comments in this memorandum with the comments that you made, and let's see where that falls.
Okay.
Well, I agree with that as well. And that's what I thought we were going to be discussing today, is that the changes that you have sent, which you and I were in agreement. I mean, just for the board's knowledge, some of the things in 3 different places, there's 3 different splits of money.
Yeah.
One says they get 90, we get 10. Another part of it says they get 85, we get 15. You know, there's all these different percentages that I'm concerned about. 80-20 split. I mean, we're paying them $250,000. If we default, we would have to pay that to them. And again, I just want to make sure that the terms have been negotiated. If Jamie wants to send his version, I have no issue with that whatsoever. But then they need to respond to it. Are they willing to negotiate on some of those levels? And you know, if not, then maybe we make another decision. But Jamie's version should be moved forward to them, let them react to it, and then we still have the final say. I just want to make
sure. And I totally agree with you on those splits. Like, I mean, I totally agree with what you just said. And I think, you know, if you all, again, like you said, we'll give it back to them and we will work on those percentages. Cause I mean, I don't agree with those as well. So.
Well, Tiffany, what I can do is I'll send you I don't even know what to call it. I'll go back to what Laurel Street originally called it, the memorandum of agreement. I'll mark that up. I'll send it to you, Tiffany, tonight or tomorrow morning in a form that you can go ahead and give it to Laurel Street. And if you want to include me on that email, and
I
go ahead and-
will.
then you and I would be right there together working with them. They'll see it. They'll see what our issues are. They'll either tell us, hey, yeah, we can work with you on this, or they can say, no, we're not going to work with you on this. That's what we really need to know.
Yeah,
before
and
you-
if they say no, then we can move to,
Yeah.
you know, the phase of doing it again. So
I agree. Because I think,
Is there a way, I'm sorry, is there a way to put a timeline on that, on their response? I mean, essentially, we've, as Tiffany said earlier, we've been at this for almost a year, and we're only now at the place of negotiation. There is a need to be expeditious in the way that we execute this agreement, whatever it's called, so that we're not spending 6 months twiddling our thumb, spinning our wheels, and then we have another 6 months behind that to put us yet another year away from even having another master developer. So, I mean, to my mind, after reading Jamie's markup, I mean, you're really bringing it back to what we originally said, and they rejected. I mean, is there a way to say that there's a time limit for their response on whether they're interested in proceeding with us?
yeah, I mean, I think my intention would be to request a meeting with them no later than next week. Like, I would like to meet with them and their attorney sometime next week.
Then I'm comfortable with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
all right, good.
Does there need to be a motion?
I don't think so, Mr. Chair, at this point. We have our instructions. If you want to make a motion, you certainly can, but I'm not sure what it would be, but I think we have our marching orders.
We're good. You got the marching orders, and we all expeditiously walk this out because we don't want to have to. I mean, those numbers were ugly, you know, and it looked like they didn't think we had a lawyer or something the way they laid it out, you know. But he addressed it. He caught it, and it's plain. So we push him back. We, with the corrections Jamie has made, we push back on the memorandum, and we'll see where this fall at.
Correct. And again, I will be requesting that meeting for no later than next week, so we don't want to go past that.
I think
Awesome.
Any more comments?
Jamie had said, can you hear me, Chairman? Mr.
Yes.
Chairman? Jamie had, I think, indicated he would do the attorneys in, but the missing item I see here is some type of a bellwether, maybe a benchmark. I'm absolutely not familiar with what percentages of 90, 10, 85, 15, and all that. I would rather not wait 6 months, but I would like, if I have to go get it or if staff can go get it, I would like somewhere, there's obviously some industry information, which rates are applicable as far as those percentages go. I'm just not familiar with that.
I think Jamie noted in his comments that some of those were negotiable and some were within the norm. So he based on that, it seems like he has some knowledge of what needs to take place with that. Am I correct, Jamie?
Yes, sir. And I think your executive director and Reggie Barner will also have some good insight on that. There's no real industry standard. There's no rule book that you go by. It's generally the developer is going to get most of the return because the developer is putting most of the money into it, and they're putting up their money and their risk. So that's why you'll never have 50-50, at least not in the current structure. So you'll always have something less than 50-50 in favor of the housing authority. But what that number is depends on the complexity of the deal, depends on the negotiations. Our goal is to get it as high as we can. That's sort of the way it is.
All
I have a
right.
question. I have a question. Do we, and I'm speaking to the commissioners, do we feel it necessary to meet with Mr. Reggie Barner?
It would be helpful to me to understand, with his experience, this whole breakdown, because, it's not only the percentages, they would possibly ask us for some upfront money based on this. I believe it was it
for the
$500,000?
yeah.
We would do that. I mean, I just need to understand better that process. Because again, that it puts our money out there. And
If I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
no,
Sabrina.
go ahead, Zeb.
I just think that might be more appropriate once we have some feedback from Laurel Street and after Jamie and Tiffany have done some work to come together, maybe even in a work group session to go over what they have agreed to move on and what they haven't agreed to move on. I think we need to let staff and legal kind of do their thing and get us best terms possible. I do think this meeting was valuable in just giving some direction of our expectation as a board. And so I mean, I'm comfortable with you guys getting to work and coming back to us with a much more concrete plan to move forward.
So I agree with that, but I just want to make it clear that after the fact, as Zeb has suggested, I don't know about anybody else, but I would like to meet with him to get a better understanding at the appropriate time of the negotiations.
I agree.
Absolutely. Yeah,
I agree.
100%.
Yeah,
I agree.
good.
He can, he'll definitely be able to do that for you.
Good. Any more comments?
Now, with that, Commissioner Chair, I would motion for adjournment.
In a second. All in favor of adjourning the meeting now, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed, like sign, nay, meeting adjourned. Thank you all for your time.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
Thank
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.